Greetings. Welcome to Invisible Walls, episode 222. All the twos.
Yes.
This won't happen again
It's
until
a palindrome.
2222.
Okay.
Okay.
Fact.
Yeah, indeed. No
Palindrome.
Shane this week. He's back on the East Coast with his family, having a very nice time. Lucky sod. But I am here to take up the reins. Hurrah! Marcus Beer. Yes, that's me. Next to me.
Ryan Beer.
Next to Ryan.
Mike Beer.
And in the corner.
I opted out for the civil marriage.
Patrick Cider.
Yeah,
Or banana beer.
sure.
So
Oh,
Mike who's joined us, by the way, is Mike the intern. Just because I can't say his last name, it's an absolute frigging mouthful that's worth 50,000 points on Scrabble. But the reason he's here, it's his last day, and he's been here all summer. He's been busting ass, and he wanted to come on the show. And, you know, the decision to put him on the show was in no way influenced by the fact that he made this for the Annoyed Gamer Show, which is really cool. So thank you for that.
What's the Annoyed Gamer Show? I haven't heard of it.
The Annoyed Gamer Show is the hottest show on game trailers with the words annoyed and gamer in them.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, on with the show. Hell of a week in games. I mean, we've got some games to talk about, which is good. But I got to say, this week, it's like the games industry has taken some acid and gone on PMS all at once. I mean, there's been closures, a go-go, people spouting off. What the hell's going on? Is it the summertime madness blues?
The Dog Days of August.
The dog days, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all,
Wasn't that a Kane and Lynch game?
Yeah.
Okay. Never
oh,
mind.
that was horrible. Yeah, don't remind us about that.
A lot of
Stricken.
dogs everywhere.
First
Patrick
of all,
likes dogs.
let's
It's a
talk.
good year.
Well, let's talk about the closures. On live, Sony Liverpool, which used to be Psygnosis.
Shadow of the Beast.
Shadow of the Beast.
Only
Wipeout.
caffeinated European teenagers can play that game. Could you play Shadow of the Beast?
I played Shadow of the Beast
Okay.
a long, long time ago. That was the Amiga game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I
Amiga
think
on PC.
I think it got ported. I'm sure. I just remember. I'm pretty damn sure those guys. They didn't develop it. I'm pretty sure. I think they published. They had the owl logo, right?
Yes.
They published Lemmings,
Yes.
and I played a shit ton of Lemmings. Lemmings.
Team 17
Lemmings.
was.
No, DMA. The guys who made Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
DMA doesn't mean anything. Yeah, but that was kind of my connection. But you know, the little book always had the Shadow of the Beast on the instruction manual, and I always thought it looked cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember Psygnosis providing, you know, two of the three of the first games I ever bought for my PS1 in Wipeout and Destruction Derby. The other one being Resident Evil when it was good.
When did they get folded into Sony?
Well, I mean, they got bought by Sony, I think, once Sony saw the development for Wipeout. And Sony said, all right, we'll have you. And then the Psygnosis game, that name disappeared. They became Sony Liverpool. And unfortunately, this week, after 30 years, they got shut down, which
Yeah.
is an absolute disaster. But, I mean, I don't know what they've been doing recently. And here's hoping, you know, I mean, the other game companies have been rising from the ashes. Apparently, Black Isle Studio is coming back this week. That was announced.
Yeah, but that's through that weird interplay.
Yeah, that was announced by Hervé Khan, who is a monumental twunt.
Twunt.
Yes,
I'm gonna give you credit for
I
that
speak
one.
from personal experience on that one. But yeah, Psygnosis, PopCap, they laid off a bunch of people this week. Funcom have laid people off this week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you've lost your job or loved ones lost their job this week, we are so sorry.
Yeah, I know. You know, through the Twitterverse, I know small publisher, but I know the guy who runs Calypso USA said they were hiring a bunch of people, and you know, you go on there. A lot of people are always putting up game jobs. I know when. Oh, I'm gonna be bad. Who made Kingdoms of Amalur? Like Big Huge Games, is that right? It had a
Yeah.
pretty generic title. I know there's a lot of like outreach for like job openings at that
38
point.
Studios and Big Huge
Yeah,
Games, those guys
yeah,
got laid
so-
off. And I will
There's
say,
always
you know,
stuff. It's an evolving market and a
Props.
revolving door.
yeah, the OnLive thing last week was really mental. I mean, it was all over the place. They were going bust. They weren't going bust.
I mean, that was like a 3-card Monty stock deal sort
Yeah.
of thing. I mean, from my perspective.
Yeah, and it's to be honest with you, it's dodgy as fuck. I mean, what's gone on is they fired almost everybody. Some people kept jobs that were then transferred to a new company, and then they rehired some people into the new company. But all those people lost all their original benefits, their tenure, their contributions to pensions. All that shit went when OnLive got folded, and OnLive weren't hurting for money. OnLive, I have it from a very reliable source. They had the option to unlock lots and lots of extra
Is that
investments
source
they wanted.
Pactor?
No, it's not Pacta, but Pacta was stunned by this. I mean, he was away on vacation last week, and he was stunned because he hadn't heard anything. So yeah, the guy who runs OnLive, the CEO, is a bit of a tool, unfortunately. For he's the one who's made a shitload of money out of this over the years, and he's just screwed dozens and dozens of people. But Dave Perry,
Gaikai?
for Gaikai, who obviously got acquired by Sony, he's been reaching out to interview and hire as many of the OnLive people. So big props to
So
to
we
Dave
may
Perry.
see a new Army Men game down the line. Trolling.
Yeah, stop it.
Uh,
No, I want Earthworm Jim. I want
Okay.
a new Earthworm Jim. Or Cool Spot.
that's one of the better licensed games.
But anyway, yeah, it's been a mental week. And then, of course, we've had the Diablo 3 and Diablo 1 and 2 devs
Yes.
going hammer and tongs at each other. One of the one of the guys from who worked on Diablo 1 and 2
Yes.
said that he
The-
wasn't very
He was like the
enamored.
creative lead from Blizzard North, I think. What's your? I mean, Patrick, you probably put more. I don't know about you, but you probably put more time into anyone else here. What do you have any opinions? I thought the guy was pretty polite. He was asked a question and he gave an answer.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's funny how, with all the social media stuff that's happening now, people can be very candid, and there's such a public eye on, what they say in those channels.
You saw the Reddit post with the Facebook stuff, though. It is funny because people are like, "Oh, I felt like I got thrown under the bus," and the comments are kind of all wishy-washy. And then who's the lead? Jay Wilson.
Yeah.
And then Jay Wilson's just like, "Fuck that guy."
Yeah, fucking loser.
But people are allowed to have. You're right. It's that public-private's kind of.
Well, what was his comment? What was his exact comment?
Long story short, so like Ryan said, one of the original staff members from Diablo 1 and 2 was interviewed by an online publication, just asking his thoughts on Diablo 3 and why it might not have panned out the way it did. He gave his criticism on it, and then Jay Wilson, who is the director of Diablo 3, went on Facebook and basically responded to it saying, effing loser.
Yeah, I gotta say, Jay Wilson learned to make a better game. Diablo 3 is not as good as Diablo 2.
Probably better than Hellgate London, though, which those guys did go on to make.
But I mean, honestly, I'm looking forward more to Torchlight 2. I mean, Diablo 3, I played it for the first couple of days it came out for review, and then I just put it on one side, and I haven't been back to it, which is really sad because I actually bought the Diablo 2 Battle Chest. I bought 4 of those in the last 10 years. Every time I bought a new PC, I bought a new one, and put the expansions in. And it's a blast to go back and play. And I would go back and play Diablo 2 over Diablo 3.
Mike, have you been playing Diablo at all, or?
I played a little bit of 3, and I don't know. My experience with the game was that it was way better than. I mean, I didn't play 1 and 2 until I played 3, so I went back and played those other games, and I don't know. I thought 3 was way better than 1 and 2, but that may just be a factor of age.
I mean, it seems like a refined game at first, but then you realize after spending a few hours into it that it's kind of the same thing.
I don't know. From an outsider looking in, I mean, I just think I like that streamlined experience, the one that's opens up to more people, just because those dungeon crawlers are not my normal games that I play.
And so Mike is basically living proof that if you're under the age of 30, you have no fucking clue about video games.
I think he's under the age of 20.
No, I'm teasing. I mean, games have changed over the last 20 years. Since Diablo 1 came out, I don't like Diablo 1. I think it's way too slow paced. But I think D2 hit the sweet spot. But yeah, I mean, look, to go out and tell somebody to go fuck themselves, when let's face it, if it hadn't been for D2 and D1, there would be no Diablo 3. So, maybe you need to suck it up, Jay. What's your face? Because I've never heard of you.
Yeah, but he did just post it as a comment on a Facebook.
Yeah.
It was a sub-comment on a Facebook post. It's not like it was. But this is the world we live in now.
But this is
everything
accountable for everything.
is tallied up.
Yeah, and it was a post in response to the game, and the guy was candid about his comments.
Should have been encrypted.
Yeah, so it's just been a dodgy old week all round. I mean, what else has gone on? Alex Hutchinson at Ubisoft, he was saying that everybody's racist in favor of the Japanese. Gives his bias towards the Japanese.
Shane wrote a big article about that.
Okay. I'm not biased in favor of the Japanese games, by the way. I fucking hate most of them. Patrick, you play your fair share of Japanese games,
Yes, indeed.
fighters and RPGs mostly.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about it?
I think it's true to an extent, especially in terms of story. Like, I think when people, who like Metal Gear Solid, very often give Hideo Kojima a pass just because even for how, far-fetched that story can go, people like it just because it's like, oh, how quirky. Like, it's a weird, Japanese take on Western culture and, Yeah, pop.
Don't you kind of think like Evangelion has kind of just fucked up everything for
Oh, yeah.
everyone?
And
Because it
what's-
was like this giant, inspirational, quirky, cool
Yeah.
thing, and now everyone tries to be as complicated and convoluted.
Yeah.
I think that definitely set the trend. And what's funny about Evangelion, now that you mention it, is that the creators have gone on record to say that a lot of it was pretty much bullshit. So I like that they had that actual admission there. But
That's funny.
yeah, I mean,
I
I
didn't know
think
that.
I think they definitely get a pass in terms of story, just because people find it quaint in some way. But in terms of when we scrutinize the game mechanics and stuff, I don't think they get a pass, especially now. And even Japanese developers have acknowledged that they have a lot of stepping up to do in terms of just evolving their game.
Yeah, and they're trying to sell more and more to more distinct audiences. I mean, they still get sales statistics over there for a country. I mean, they have a pretty big population. I mean, they don't have the modern warfare juggernaut, but I mean, like the Pokemons, the Monster Hunters, they sell ridiculously high for when you consider their population over there and that
Oh, I mean,
commuter culture.
their stuff's
But they're
always
also
done
trying to
well.
reach out to other audiences. A lot of their CEOs have said, and I think Square's been doing a good job with their acquisition of IDOS, and
Well, I
and Capcom, of course, has had that kind of pan-global sort of development thing, which has had some successes and some failures.
I think the issue I have is that I grew up playing a lot of the Japanese games on the Nintendo and the Sega Genesis.
Mega Drive?
The Mega Drive. Yeah, I mean, Secret of Mana, the original Final Fantasy games, playing them on the Game Boy as well, and loving about that stuff then. And then I kind of grew and evolved, and my tastes went off in different directions. And I don't think the games grew with me. I think they hit a certain level around the early 2000s that it's very rare you see one push beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just symptomatic of Japanese game development in general. There's a lot of brand faithfulness. Like, look at Dragon Quest. That's the same game we've been playing for, like, how long? They're very afraid to change up the formula.
Take that back. That game has evolved.
Okay.
It's like a Pokemon.
Yeah,
it's now
exactly.
a Raichu. It's no longer Pikachu.
Yeah, maybe they use a Thunderstone once in a while, but it's still the same shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, they're trying to play to a certain expectation for their customers where, we have to deliver the same product, just kind of repackaged a different way sometimes.
And then I'll throw a counterpoint or literally my own point that they sort of like hit a certain plateau and didn't change. And then you look at Resident Evil, which started off phenomenally well, and perhaps we're all craving more of that particular genre, which has now become generic action shooter number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I just found this out a couple years ago, but one of my favorite NES games when I was growing up was Star Tropics. And I didn't find this out until a couple years ago. That game was completely developed in Japan for an American audience. It was never even released in Japan.
Just like Earthbound.
Mother was released.
It was, but I mean, the parallel to developing for a Western audience.
Okay. But I mean, like, yeah, Star Tropics, it's like, he likes baseball and yo-yos.
Yeah.
Go for it. But I don't know. It's interesting to see where things can go and what will happen.
Look at this. What is this place? Soundwave's old workshop. Just dump your trash anywhere. He doesn't care.
Okay, now we're going to talk about a bona fide game that got released this week, one that I actually went out and bought cash money for. Or rather paid cash money for, Transformers.
Did you regret
Battle
it?
for Cyber. Actually, no.
Yeah.
I'm kind of liking it, which has surprised me because, I mean, obviously, the last Transformers game I played was Dark of the Moon.
Yeah,
otherwise
which
known
they
as
also
Ass
made.
Crack of the Moon. Yeah, and that game was friggin' rancid.
Were they trying to color too much in the lines to the bad movie?
Well, no, it was kind of set just before the bad movie. But
Is
was
it actually
totally
Dark?
unplayable.
Real quick, was it actually called Dark Side of the Moon, or was it called
Dark-
War of?
Dark-
It wasn't War of Cybertron.
No, that was the
No.
one before that.
They did.
Before
Okay,
Dark-
They did.
sorry, I'm
they
getting
did
confused.
So,
Ryan.
quick summation of this. High Moon Studios made War for Cybertron, really good, and then they made a movie game tie-in, Dark Side of the Moon, for the third
Really
part of
bad.
the movie. Shitty. Now they made Fall of Cybertron.
And it's the
Good
best
again.
one yet, right?
Yeah.
They've really kind of refined their Transformer-ness.
Yeah, and what I'd say is that I'm not the biggest Transformers fan in the world.
That would be Rich Brown.
Exactly. I love the movie. Cool. Yay. Dinobots. Awesome.
The animated movie.
Yes.
Gotta
Yes.
make sure.
Animated movie.
Not
Which-
Dark of the Moon,
which
because Dark of the
animated
Moon
movie?
was just awful.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm not the biggest fan, but even I appreciated what this game was trying to do, not only in trying to bring out what makes the Transformers cool, but also making a good game just on its own. I mean, we know how shitty licensed games can be, but this definitely goes out of its way to kind of be a decent thing, without the license.
And it doesn't, subscribe to. It's a third-person shooter, but you're not you don't have to find cover all the time. It's not a stealth game. I mean, the focus, the way they push you towards using the melee tactics and, changing up your weapons and upgrading them. And you feel like you're playing a Transformer. I didn't play War for Cybertron. I did play, like I said, Arse of the Moon, and I just, that game still gives me nightmares. But this one, it felt like I was this ginormous friggin' robot with a lot of weight behind me. Not exactly the fastest moving thing in the world. And then when you transform into the vehicle, you absorb a lot of damage, but you dish a lot of damage. It's a shit ton of fun, and I haven't even on one yet.
How often are you actually switching to your vehicle form?
I think that just depends on your personal play style. I know that I was doing it a lot.
Because that's like the cool. I mean, the game's called Transformers. That's like the cool part. I mean, does it make it an enticing thing, or is it shoving it down your throat?
It's completely rewarding, and it factors into tactics more.
See, that's good. That's what I kind of like to hear. That they're approaching a license, and I like you said, it's the third person, but it doesn't have a cover system. You're probably eating a lot of hits, so maybe it's a little more on the kind of like anyone can pick up and play, but they can still work with that kind of like palette of the franchise to make something that's both rewarding and kind of wide-reaching. Like going back to when we were talking about like Diablo.
It's definitely a case of when I was first playing through it, I was playing, and I was playing as Optimus, and I was like, I'd get myself killed a couple of times because I was playing in the mentality of looking for cover, and then it finally got into my head. You know what? I'm just going to click the button. I'm going to turn into the vehicle, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I'm not taking that much damage anymore. I am less maneuverable, but
hauling
dealing
cargo.
damage, it was, yes.
Checking into the way station.
Picking up hitchhikers. It was fantastic. But no, the way they execute it is great. And I mean, the story actually isn't that bad either. I mean, for what is.
I didn't even think of that.
I mean, it's a licensed product about a plastic toy that turns into a car. And the story, I would say, is better than definitely the last two Transformer movies.
Well, it delves into Transformers lore. It really brings in all Megatron, Optimus Prime, the Ark, everything like that.
Yeah, and it's actually treading on, like I said in the review, very sacred ground for Transformers fans, because it's the war of Cybertron. When everything's just about to come to a head.
Yeah, and I think I may be wrong here, so sorry, but I think they were also working with the guys at IDW Press right now that are currently that currently have the license to do the comics and making sure they're working.
I didn't know about that.
I can't remember. I was at Comic-Con and I think that got brought up, but those guys definitely knew their stuff. Rich Brown was asking them
All these
quick
gotcha
questions. And they figured everything out.
Yeah, but I agree with everything that Marcus said. For people that complain, why isn't there a cover shooter? This is a third-person shooter. I feel like they did that on purpose because they want you to feel like a Transformer. You're constantly encouraged to be mobile. Every time you transform into your vehicle form, you get added speed and armor, which is screaming at you to use that as your survival mechanic rather than just going in and out of cover. And I think it especially is awesome when it comes into play for multiplayer, because then that's when you can kind of really explore how each different vehicle and class type works. You can turn into a jet, you can turn into a tank. What's great is that for the first time you're able to completely customize a Transformer of your own from scratch. You could give it all the parts you want, the shoulder pieces, the head, the chassis.
Oh yeah, the game
really
looks
cool.
good.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of surprised at that as well.
I haven't gone into multiplayer because I refuse to pay for Xbox Live right now. Screw you, Microsoft. But I like the customization, the upgrade options that you get even in single player. When you go to the shop and you get to spend your Transformer coins, but the way you can customize the weapons to suit your choice if you want to play a more armor-centric version of yourself. I mean, I love that sort of stuff. And I'll say that I am looking forward to perhaps the next Transformers game that they do that's not based on a movie, that perhaps where they can reimagine the first contact with Earth, because this is literally set 3-4 days before they leave for Earth. So I mean, the next one could be really phenomenal, where they do bring in a lot of the stuff that we are familiar with.
I wouldn't be surprised if this would be a trilogy or even just going beyond that. This game has done awesomely, and obviously the first game did well enough to prompt the second game. So yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what High Moon does with it, and actually because of the work they've done with Fall of Cybertron, I can't wait to see what they do with Deadpool. It seems like they can treat a licensed property with respect, And that definitely comes across in Transformers. So I think Deadpool might be awesome now.
Well, and that's the other thing. Going back to this, what I said about the story on Transformers, that really bodes well as well. Because I mean, when you're looking at the licensed product, what is the one thing that lets a licensed game down? It's the story, the character. It kind of skates. And these guys did. I actually worked with them. when I was
It
at
can also
Vivendi.
often be the gameplay.
Well, but I mean, a lot of not much thought gets put in.
Yeah, in general,
But
like all around.
I remember working with these guys when I was at Vivendi and we were doing the Bourne game, and that was basically just after Vivendi acquired them, and we went through a lot of going through the story and the mechanics and stuff. But I think Deadpool could be a bunch of fun as long as he's an offensive.
What was their vampire western game?
Oh Jesus, yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I got the art book sitting at home.
Dark Rising or something? I don't know. Yeah, these guys have had a pretty good track record. Some blemishes, but interesting games.
Still a
Especially-
kind of like a new studio.
Yeah, I don't know how far back they go, but definitely really really cool.
Okay, next up, we're actually going to have a Nintendo segment. Ryan called it the sort of like Nintendo hurrah.
The
but-
Nintendo Summer Hurrah
Yeah,
with
I'd
Mike
like-
Damiani.
Yeah, with Mike Damiani, who's joined us. But I'd actually say it's Nintendo's last hurrah.
Oh.
Oh,
Because I'm
okay, whatever.
an arsehole, I don't care. First up, before we talk about the games, let's talk about Nintendo Power. Rest in peace.
Yeah, that sucks.
24 years. 24 years that magazine's been going.
I mean, what was GamePro earlier this year? Or was that late last year?
That was like
I can't remember.
within the
That-
last year they
Yeah.
went down too. So
yeah. I mean, it's
media.
Print media. We've
way
been
out.
saying it. I mean, there's
I mean,
only a few left now.
And they had a pretty good circulation. I mean, for magazines, they were like, I think Future said they were like 400,000. But I could also see it's one of those cases where even if you have the circulation, it could still be a hard sell to advertisers. Because I know every time I leaf through a Nintendo Power, they still have the Songbird
Yeah,
Ocarina, full page, full color ad, and I'm like,
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the issue. I mean, the Nintendo Power was obviously the Nintendo rah-rah mag, more so than anybody else.
It got better when it went. I personally felt like it got better when it went to Nintendo. What would you say? Co-published it with Future when they went out of house for their editorial.
see,
not-
I
wait,
I disagree
Really?
with that 100%.
I felt like it got more mature.
I think
maybe.
it lost what it was when it went to Future.
Really?
I mean, the other thing is you said declining circulation maybe, or you said you thought it had good circulation. They said in a statement.
I mean, it's still going down.
Well,
but it was
Future
still
Future
pretty
said it
good.
was difficult to work with Nintendo, that they weren't giving them as much exclusives, and Nintendo,
That I could see.
Yeah.
Nintendo Power, yeah, it used to be like a cheerleading magazine for Nintendo fans, but it also had all the damn exclusives in it. You got those interviews, like every time like a new Zelda game was coming out, you get like the first information in there. Even when with the internet, you'd always go to like Nintendo Power for that, like that Miyamoto interview or the new Mario game. You'd go like check out the first details there. And when it went to Future, they just lost that because they wanted to give other magazines a fair shake, I think.
And all the while, Future were paying Nintendo a very hefty amount for that Nintendo license, because that's what it was. It was a license to put Nintendo, official Nintendo magazine. And I actually went to Future a few times, obviously when I was a PR person, and the security issues they'd have for the Nintendo offices. Everything else in Future was open plan. Nintendo offices behind lock and key code. Mm-hmm. You couldn't get in, and it's a shame.
Yeah,
Look, there were some really
believe
good.
that.
Yeah, there were really good people working there who actually gave a shit and worked their asses off. But Nintendo's got nothing to talk about. I mean, you're going to talk about a couple of games now, but that would have been the perfect place to break the Wii U. But we still don't know what's going on with the Wii U. And we've said it over and over.
We'll know next in about.
What's in
24
Nintendo
days.
Power nowadays?
They do they do preview coverage for upcoming games, whatever's coming out.
They do cover WiiWare and DSiWare better
they
than
do.
anybody else.
Yeah, they do the whole download coverage for what you can get off the shops. They do their reviews section. They have a really thin community section where they try and show what's going on the internet on fan sites, and it's really.
Do they still do game guides?
They don't do game guides anymore. They haven't.
See, it's funny you mentioned that because I read Nintendo Power from issue 1 back in the day, with the cool claymation cover and everything. I got my Dragon Quest for free. But what was funny is I always felt like they previewed games in a very interesting way that a lot of other places couldn't, since they had access to the games. Is that their previews a lot of times were guides for the first couple levels. So it was not just this game will have experience levels and you may fight monsters. They were showing you literally step for step. And back then, I don't think I knew the word spoiler until probably Star Wars Episode 1 or something like that. But it was a really interesting way to get, like, especially when you're a kid and you're poring over these things, just get like completely engrossed and like know what's going on, and like even not having played it, seeing like those cool maps, especially for the 2D platformers where they stitch them side by side. That kind of stuff was really cool, and it really got you into the game in a way that it seems kind of funny now, because no one would ever do a preview. I mean, we'll do like a developer walkthrough or something, but it's not like we're going to walk you through the first like 6 hours of the game like kind of uninterrupted, showing off all the little secrets or anything like that. Previews have definitely became way different in other magazines and on the internet or video.
Yeah. Well, I think, rest in peace, Nintendo Power. It had a good run. I mean, almost quarter of a century. I mean, again, something that's been around longer than Mike the Intern's been alive.
Wow.
I'm going to keep on saying these things. Transformers, first created before Mike the Intern was born. All right, so let's actually talk about the games. And one of these games you actually, in an email to me, you put it, Mr. Damiani, that this might be the last great Wii game. Ironically, it's called The Last Story. Do you stand by that? I mean, I watched you play this last week with its go blimey governor Britishisms.
I think it's ironic. It's fitting.
But is it the last great Wii game?
It's going to be the last very good Wii game.
Oh, okay.
Damning praise.
I think, first of all, it's called The Last Story because if you don't know, the game's developed by Mistwalker. The creator of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi. Nobuo Uematsu composed the music. And basically, it is like a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy. An alternate universe that could have been like what Final Fantasy would have been if those guys had stayed at Square Enix. But the game, I think the only problem with that game, like the biggest problem with that game that holds it back from being like the level of like Xenoblade or like a Zelda on the Wii, is that it tries to do a lot of things new that you don't typically expect in RPG, especially the battle system. It's just an insane battle system that it was almost as jarring of a battle system to get used to as Resonance of Fate, that crazy one where you have to like run around.
That one.
So it's very I mean, it's not.
No, that's pretty nuts.
It's not as complicated as Resonance of Fate, but it takes a little while to get.
But it's real time with a cover system.
Yeah,
right?
it's
and
like playing
wall
like
jumps.
a action adventure shooter, like third-person shooter combination for the battle system. Like, basically when you do a battle, like it's real time. It shows you the layout of the enemy position, like on a map. And then you can like issue orders to your party members. Like you can flank, you can like scout that there's a healer with them, and you can like snipe them before you even begin the battle. You can use stealth to sneak around and stealth kill people so you don't alert them.
I saw you doing that. The game was multiplayer, which is
it has
pretty weird. But when I was watching you do that boss battle with the like the tentacle boss,
the Kraken boss, yes.
Yeah, okay. It seemed a little Monster Hunter-y to me. Maybe because you were playing multiplayer.
That part, yeah, that's just the multiplayer part.
Okay,
a little
so
bit
it's
like
not
that.
really.
It's not like it's not really like Monster Hunter. The boss battles there are multiple ways to like take them down, and they are a little bit more drawn out and creative. Like there's one boss battle aboard a pirate ship where you're fighting this giant like tortoise, and obviously you can't just like penetrate its armor. You can sit there whacking it. You're gonna take like an hour to beat it, or you try and like wait till.
Look, I'm not going to drop in some smutty comment every time somebody says something. I'm respecting the man and what he has to say, Stephen.
Okay.
Shut up.
Basically, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
You can go brute force if you want to. If you're you power level yourself, whatever. That's not the way to do it. You got to get creative in battles. Like the turtle battle. You want to wait for them to like kind of like lift up and be off balance. You can knock them down and you get on them. There's like a quick time event. There's can
you put them on their back and spin them around?
You can't spin them around, but you can get on top and you start like wailing on them on their soft side. But it does spin around. It spins around and like knocks everybody out. So it does do some spinning. Right. But that's one of the early on boss battles. And the battles in that system, like you can run up walls and do a backflip, and while the game will freeze, and you can move a reticule around, and you'll like attack a group of enemies like this jump slash. There's just really cool like things you can do in this battle system that you don't really see in RPGs, even like Western RPGs, which are more action-oriented. This is something that...
That's like Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry
stuff.
It's
like it's taking that level of stuff and trying to put it into an RPG, a system with like the numbers and the what's going on behind the scenes for an RPG. And going back to like what's the issue is it's a little probably too ambitious, and there's some like lack of polish going on there. Like you'll be trying to run away from an enemy, the camera's not quite right. You'll like run up a wall and inadvertently be like, wait, where am I? You'll lose like positioning. The cover system, every game that has cover, whenever you try and roll away from something and you're too close, you always like hug the wall. Like there's little things like that. And you saw, like Marcus, you saw me playing it. You saw how it looked. I mean, it's on the Wii. The Wii is old. The Wii's on its way out. But this game, it is also ambitious in what it's trying to do visually. It's not like, it wasn't expansive. It wasn't like huge, open, sprawling worlds. It's like a lot of stuff crammed on screen at once. Like lots of buildings and detail and like NPCs on screen.
It certainly wasn't bland. I mean, it wasn't, you're in an overworld and we're saving everything for the dungeon. I mean, I think there was one issue where it was like you were running and I thought you were running. Honestly, you were running towards the ocean, and then the rest of the city popped in.
Yeah,
so that was the only time. And yeah, I mean, from a distance, it's jaggy, but I could see this working. Perhaps this should have been a game that went to Wii U and having that little bit more, especially with the combat system, and then the the Wii U the pad. That might be something that
might have definitely helped out. I mean, just you can check out videos of this game running on that Dolphin emulator using like up-resing it and stuff, and it looks really good. And
interesting.
So seeing it in SD, it kind of like takes a little bit out of it. It's still really good looking, but you can just imagine. You're just like playing it. You're imagining like, oh, if this had better anti-aliasing, the scale, this would look so gorgeous. But
I would say for Wii fans and video game collectors, this may be one to pick up. Because it's Xseed, right?
It's gonna be
it's a limited release, and a lot of times if this really is one of the last big good games published, that sometimes gives games a little more notoriety for the collector's market as well.
Yeah, the only game coming out after this is the Kirby 25th Anniversary, which is the collection of those old games on a Wii.
And you still don't think Pandora has any chance?
I don't think it's too late for that game. I think, and that was the weakest.
Yeah, I guess the Wii U.
That was the weakest of those three Operation Rainfall games that people wanted to come out and be localized here. Xenoblade was the strongest. Last Story.
Did Pandora end up coming out in Europe?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
It came out, it's already out there, but that was kind of, I think, the weakest one, the hardest sell, especially outside of Japan. So I don't think that's going to happen.
All right, let's talk about the new Mario game, the new Super Mario Brothers 2 game. I mean, this has come out with barely any fanfare, sort of like just. It's kind of like dribbled out, really, like a leftover fart.
It's just, I mean, you just look at the game. We had New Super Mario Brothers on DS, New Super Mario Brothers on Wii, and now New Super Mario Brothers 2 on 3DS. And to be honest, like, there's not that much different about these.
Collect the coins.
It's always the power-ups that are different. They add like one or two new power-ups. They might throw in one new thing, like the DS one had the multiplayer, the competitive like race to the finish. The Wii one had the 4-player co-op. This one has the 2-player co-op, but you both got to have a cartridge. You can't do the download play. Nintendo doesn't like doing that for some reason. And it's still good, but I think...
Is Mario phoning it in now?
Yeah, it felt like they did. Yeah, it does feel like Nintendo just like took, we know this works, we know you're going to buy it, we'll throw a few updates into it, here you go.
Well, we used to have the Mario games pretty spaced out. And now these are kind of rapid succession.
Well, this game's coming out, obviously,
for Mario,
it's coming out
anyway.
with the 3DSL to give 3DS a sales boost. I mean, they've obviously been holding on to this one because they know it's going to sell. They know it's going to give them that boost. It's going to go through the holiday. This game's going to probably end up being one of the best sellers on the 3DS through its lifetime. They were just waiting to push the button on this game, and that's how Nintendo works sometimes. They have games that are really, it looks like they put minimal effort into it. They're still pretty good, and people just gobble it up.
So you mentioned the 3DSL, that's the big one. Has anybody played it?
I've seen, I played on it briefly. Bigger screen. It's thinner. Like it feels thinner to me, but I mean it's a bigger screen, so it's easier. It looked nicer, but I guess the resolution's not improved that much.
The PPI, I don't even think it is. The PPI is probably a little messed up.
So it doesn't look quite as crisp.
Which was the exact same thing that happened when they did the XL
DS XL.
last time.
Well, when they did the DS XL, it felt cheap, and it felt even cheaper and more plasticky.
I thought the XL was okay.
So does the new one?
This one doesn't have it's like not that glossy finish.
Yeah,
it's that
so
matte.
no
It's like the DS Lite. No,
Collect them all.
Whatever. It's one of the finishes.
Them all.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel as I don't know. The 3DS to me felt a little kind of like cheap.
Yeah.
And I didn't like its finish on this. I like the finish on the 3DS XL a little bit more, but it still feels a little flimsy to me. I mean, it still works. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just I'm not going to upgrade to that just to have a bigger screen
Yeah.
size.
So my question for like, why did you ended up giving New Super Mario Brothers like a low 8? I
Yeah.
think? I mean, for kind of like the fair weather Mario fans, is this like, obviously a lot of people are going to buy it just because it's Mario, but I mean, is this one that people could kind of sit out if they wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, if you,
How
there's
about,
no,
the
there's
social,
nothing.
how about the social aspect? Like if we all got it here at work with that coin stuff, makes it a little more enticing maybe?
You have to.
Once everyone found out what the reward was for that, I think it kind of killed some of that.
Yeah,
it seemed like
To do all the coin collecting, you have to be really neurotic. Like I started out playing the first few levels.
Have you
like,
met us?
I'm gonna.
But they also
But
have
even like I'm neurotic, and I just like tried to collect every coin, and just like okay, after a while you get one of those suits that just like fires this fireball and makes the entire screen coins, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna stop here, no more. This is an addiction. So
But they also have the street pass, because sitting there and just playing through the game trying to collect coins, you're going to go insane. You're
Yeah.
going to get too bored trying to do that. They have the street pass thing, so I tag you, I get your best score from the series of 3 levels, your high score. If I beat it, I not only get your coins and my coins, I get like a bonus, and that's like how you like quickly accumulate a lot of coins, but the payoff is a new title screen. Classic like
So-
Nintendo Easter egg, no new mode, no new secret, just a new title screen.
That's
So
smart.
don't everyone listen.
Bragging
Don't
rights.
unless you're that like obsessive. Don't bother. There's nothing worth it to do that. But I mean, some people like that. But to be fair, this is a game you don't have to play. Same thing. Like I felt the same thing like new Super Mario 3D Land. Good
Yeah.
game, but it felt like it was just like dialing it. It wasn't offering too much like innovation. The 3D effect was kind of cool, but like I think it was kind of over exaggerated by some how it enhanced the gameplay. But it doesn't feel like there's been like the Mario game I've been waiting for since Galaxy 1, basically. I'm waiting for like that next 3D Mario game that's like Galaxy level.
Are we done with Nintendo for the moment? Are we over them? Because I mean, look,
No, really surprised and
I think-
want to see what's going to happen with the Wii U.
yeah.
I think people are.
I'm going to give it a chance. I have to, man.
I mean, what would we said? 24 days, 28 days until we think it's going to
I
be
was-
announced
Soon, yeah.
soonish with
The
Nintendo
beginning
Direct,
of
yeah.
October or something like that.
September 13th.
September
Yeah.
13th.
Fucking Nintendo, dude. All right, thanks, Mike.
Right. Is everyone okay?
Yeah, that was easy.
Let's move on.
Okay, joining us now is Mr. Brandon Jones because we are going to talk about PAX, which literally is actually by a week today. By the time you watch this, we'll have done our PAX panel. We can go
Oh,
on it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also
I
there may
assume
not be an
watched.
episode next week.
Yeah,
or
we'll
there
talk-
will be an episode, but
We'll talk about that at the end of the show.
kind of related to this.
But yeah. Anyway, Brandon, talk to me about the cinema thing. Yeah, Shane's gone, and I mean the lunatics have taken over the asylum. All right, so there is a panel. Obviously, there's the Invisible Walls panel, which is on Friday, 1:30 at Kraken Theatre, which is
Or
obviously-
Serpent. Is it? Do
It's
you remember?
Kraken, I think it is.
You're in the Serpent, we're in the Kraken, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Serpent and Kraken, the two to remember.
They're friends.
The Invisible Walls one is obviously the most important panel, where you get to see some really good-looking people. And then there's the other one with Brandon Jones. So, Brandon, what is the other trailer?
Yeah, thankfully, they're on different days.
Yeah,
You
yours
can-
is on Saturday.
You don't have to stress
You
yourself
can go to
out
both.
trying to get to both of them. Yeah. So ours is Saturday. It's at 3 o'clock, and it is a film festival. It's called the GT Film Fest, and it's gonna be a collection of some original stuff from our own internal team and a bunch of third-party stuff from Screw Attack and The Nerd and 8-Bit Strange and a bunch of other
Hey Ash.
stuff. So, hey Ash.
And people are
will
going to be
there.
stopping in to answer your questions too.
And we're going to have some people on the panel. We'll have Mike Damiani, who can answer some questions about pop fiction. And we're going to have the Ash crew there and Mega64 as well. It's going to be there to answer questions about their episode. And it's all new stuff premiering at the...
Oh, and who's co-hosting with you?
Daniel Kaiser, of course.
And his hair.
And his hair. And his wristband.
Daniel Kaiser, the guy who hosted this pirate version of Invisible Walls from Germany.
The German pirate edition.
This Eurotrash knockoff that was done in a hotel room. Yeah, the Scheiße. Okay, so that's on the Saturday. What time?
3 o'clock p.m.
3 o'clock
in the
p.m.
Kraken Theater.
You're in the Kraken, we're in the hey. All right, so next week, because we're all at PAX and we all are going to be having a lot of fun, there won't be any regular Invisible Walls, but we are recording Invisible Walls live, and it will go up as fast as is physically possible once we finish recording it. And if you are going to be at PAX, there's going to be lots of giveaways. Ryan's going to be there, I'm going to be there, that Shane bloke's going to be there. Who else? Damiani. I mean, we're
Kaiser, Jones.
Kaiser, Jeff Keighley. I mean, there's going to be a full GT crew there next week. So feel free to come by and punch us, because I'm sure we deserve it.
Yeah.
But there's some cool giveaways, posters, and
yeah,
other good stuff.
hopefully, if everything works out, there's going to be posters, buttons, T-shirts, and then some special stuff like you had that thing last week, the mystery tube.
Yeah, the mystery tube. I'm giving away Miguel Lopez's mystery tube next week.
That doesn't sound good at all.
And this is something that we discussed as well. I'm going to be recording an episode of Annoyed Gamer live at PAX next week as well. So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to find somewhere to sit in a corner and hurl abuse at people. Oh, by the way, turn up in a Utila kilt and I'll kick your ass, okay? All right, that's it for this show. I think we're done for the show. Anything else you want to add?
That's it? Just first time at PAX, so really looking forward to it.
You'll have a blast. My first time was last year. I love it. Any Pop Fictions coming up?
We got the Pop Fiction that we're saving for this. It's a good one.
Okay.
It's actually good because we've had some insight from. We're always saying, hey, we reached out to the publisher, but we couldn't hear from him. Where we got the straight from the horse's mouth, the final verdict on this Pop Fiction. So.
All right. So if you want to figure it out,
episode.
try and guess which publisher is a horse.
Any final words for your internship?
Just that I really enjoyed it here.
Boring. Okay.
I don't want to go back.
Everyone, Michael worked on the Ratchet and Clank retrospective,
Oh,
which should be up soon.
Yeah.
You guys should watch
Well,
it.
we've been working on it, and
we were gonna make it a 1-part retrospective, and it ended up being 2 because it's just too damn huge.
Yeah.
But he, did all the grunt work, capturing everything, and has a definite love for all things Ratchet. So
yeah,
hopefully
so
that comes across in the video.
The 10th anniversary, so I wanted to do this for my intern project, and I think it's going to turn out really good. Hopefully.
All right.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, that's it for this week's show. One last bit of housekeeping. The official Game Trailers app has gone into submission for iOS devices. Android is coming soon, apparently. Shane knows all about it, but guess what? Shane isn't here, but it's coming, so it should be approved in the next week.
I've seen
or
it. It's
two.
actually pretty cool.
What does it do?
It has all of our original content, all of the big trailers. It looks really nice. It streams really well. I'm actually surprised. It's pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Well, there you go. That's our show for this week.
That's the kind of enthusiasm we're looking for.
That's our show for next
It's
week.
pretty good.
Hopefully we'll see you all at PAX next week. If you can't make it at PAX, you will see us at some point over the weekend when the show goes up.
Maybe.
The show will go up at some point, definitely, but we just don't know when. Fact. Until then, Invisible Walls is done for the day. All right, who's buying the drinks?
Not me. Can't.